In 1 Thessalonians chapter 1, the Apostle Paul is writing to the church in Thessalonica. And he has Timothy and Silas with him as well. And they're writing to this church in particular because where the church of Thessalonica was coming from, as far as its brief history, was Alexander the Great's sister, Thessaloniki, married a man, and he was a famous ruler. And Thessaloniki wanted to establish this town. And so her father, his name was Macedon, and that's where we get the Macedonian areas. And so you see around 300 BC that Alexander the Great's sister, Thessaloniki, inspired to have this town built, and eventually it started to take off. It became the second most wealthy and economically flourishing town in the area. Of course, it grew to be much more than a town over some time. And eventually, as the time of Jesus rolled around, Rome became the major governing secular power, if you will. And so when it was first established, it was by Greece, though. And it was a melting pot. It was a major transportation hub. It was a major economical hub. And so you see that it was a melting pot, what have you, where various cultures came together. They were very culturally active. They had festivals and events and things like that. They were very festivity oriented. And with a lot of the Greece or Grecian areas, is you saw that the cultural emphasis was very heavy. And in fact, what's interesting is though they had their religious flares, most people were about adhesion or loyalty to Greece. Instead, it would be like saying, I'm an American over being a Christian, or they're equal. Well, of course, we know that from reading the scriptures that God calls us to be loyal to him first and above all man-made loyalties. And so for the Apostle Paul to see these people adopt the Christian faith, he was extremely excited. And he goes on to say in verse 2, we always thank God for all of you and pray for you constantly, because they embraced Christianity. Now, they didn't just embrace Christianity and adhere to all of their cultural loyalties, but they made Christianity their number one thing. Now, of course, this isn't a blanket statement, but overall, the Thessalonican church was faithful in turning to the gospel of Jesus Christ. And throughout this entire book, you'll see this theme of the day of the Lord, because they wanted to make sure that they didn't miss it. And that will be more in the next a chapter, per se, in chapter 2. But at the end of the day, the thing that I want us to focus on is that they were willing to adopt their faith in Jesus Christ and put it to a higher value than their earthly government or their earthly loyalty. And may we continue to grow in the same factor that our first and foremost value is the kingdom of God, and secondly would be our earthly loyalties. May the Lord bless you and keep you.